We continue with Deliberate Success with Greg Pinio.
Successful people are confident. Well, they're confident because they know what they're doing, right? Now, tell me, I'm going to ask the women because, it seemed a little bit weird if I asked the guys. But women, tell me, confidence is very sexy, is it not? Yes. Okay, well, from a man's perspective, let me tell you that in a woman, confidence is very sexy. What is confidence? It's knowledge. It's not being intimidated in where you are because you know the answer. You've tested it. You've tried it. Confidence comes from knowing what you're doing well and being true to your own vision. Okay? Which is our next point. Thoreau calls it the unbeaten path. How deep the rut of conformity. I took the unbeaten path. What is your vision? Confidence is about education and a commitment to your vision. That's what you do. Unwavering. How many people do you know that the latest get-rich-quick thing, they're over here? And then the next little snake guy comes to town, and then they're over here. And then they're over here. And then they're over here. And wait a minute, last week you were with Golden Wonder. Now you're with Amway. Now you're with this. Now you're with that. What do? That's not confidence. Know what you want, get educated in where you're going, and go there. And go there in a solid, direct manner. Confidence. Huge. Emerson says, self-trust is the secret to success. Confidence, right? Huge. Okay? Successful people know how to sell. They know what they want, they believe in what they have, and they know how to sell. Now I'm going to give you my first sales lesson. This is the first sales lesson I ever had. Okay? I'm 8 years old. I'm extremely enthusiastic because it's my first year in Little League Baseball. And like in every Little League program, they make you go out and sell something, right? To raise money for the program, right? So we had to sell almond roca. You know, those little pink cans of almond roca. And it came in these cases of 12 to a case. These nice, big, heavy cardboard boxes. And we all had to sell at least 2 cases, 24 cans. So, I was going to do my part. I'm the young, enthusiastic guy, so my mom and dad give me a little coaching. They say you got to wear your uniform, probably because that looks cute, and look them right in the eye when you talk to them, right? They gave me some good advice. And I set off with my cans, and I walked right next door. And the people next door, I don't know how I remember this, but it was Ginny and Pete Peterson. And they were kind of retired people, and they had a swimming pool in their backyard. And so in the summer, all the neighborhood kids would get to go there, and they'd have a pool party, right? So they were very cool people. And so I thought, that's safe, I'll go there first. And I walk up to the door, I set down one case, I knock on the door. For whatever reason, I picked up the case again, because that looked more official. Right? And Mr. Peterson opened the door. These are my exact words. Hi, Mr. Peterson. He said, hi, Greg. I said, Mr. Peterson, I'm selling almond roca to raise money for my Little League baseball team. Would you like to buy a can? Pretty good, huh? I thought that was pretty good. I looked him right in the eye, chin up, just like I was taught. Mr. Peterson said, Greg, are you in a hurry? I didn't expect that question. Not particularly. He says, come on in. I'm going to give you a little sales lesson. I went, okay, like any 8-year-old would do. I can't believe I can remember this clearly. But I walked in. He sat me down, gave me some soda pop. He says, Greg, say it to me exactly how you said it. What do you mean? I said, when you came to the door, what'd you say? I said, hi, Mr. Peterson. And I said, hi, Greg. What'd you say after that? I said, Mr. Peterson, I'm raising money for my Little League baseball program. I'm selling almond roca. Would you like to buy a can? He says, exactly. I don't get what I did wrong. I thought I did it perfect, just like I'd rehearsed in the mirror. He said, Greg, what if I wanted to buy 5 cans? I said, well, you could sure do that. He says, well, how do I know I could do that? You asked me if I wanted to buy a can. If I did everything you asked me to do, I would buy a can. Right? I said, right, but you still could buy 5. He said, so first of all, I don't want you to set a ceiling on what you're asking people. So I want you to say it a little differently, okay? And I'll tell you how to say it in a minute. But understand that I don't want you to set a ceiling on it. I want the possibility for someone, if they want to buy 100 cans, they can do that. Okay, I'm listening now. I'm a quick study, by the way. Note to self. Say 100 cans. That'd be good. I'd be done in 2 houses. But then he said, now, the key to selling is that you're an 8-year-old kid and you show up at my door. Do you think you're carrying a lot of horsepower? I'm still not getting this. He said, you're an 8-year-old kid, Greg. Now, do you think that if the owner of a big bank walked up to my door and said, do you want to buy a can of almond roca? Do you think that would be, I'd probably buy one from him for sure, wouldn't I? Well, yeah, because he's a big adult. Exactly. So here's what I want you to say. I want you to go next door. First of all, Greg, I'm going to buy 6 cans from you. And here you go. Here's the money. Took 6 cans, set it aside. They were $1 a can. Great. Now, I want you to go next door to Mr. Smith. And I want you to say it just this way. Okay? Hi, Mr. Smith. My name's Greg Pinio. What's he going to say? Hi, Greg. Okay, I got that down. I could do that. He says, now here's the hard part. Then I want you to say this. Mr. Smith, I just came from Mr. Peterson's house. Mr. Peterson shared with me that you are among the most generous in the neighborhood. Mr. Peterson has purchased 6 cans of almond roca to support my Little League program and children as a whole. Mr. Peterson, in fact, bought 6 cans on that behalf. He wanted to know, he wanted me to be sure to tell him how many cans you bought. For the children. I'm embellishing slightly, but that was the exact point. And I went, okay, I think I got it. And it was like a big adventure. I walked next to her, oh crap, here I go. I had my, hi, I'm Greg thing down. Okay, hi, Mr. Smith? He answered the door. I'm Greg Pinio. Hi, Greg. That went well. I said, Mr. Smith, I just came from Mr. Peterson's house. Mr. Peterson asked me to come and talk with you. Mr. Peterson has purchased 6 cans of almond roca, and he shared with me that you, though, were among the most generous in the neighborhood, and surely you would support us, our baseball team, and children as a whole in such a generous manner, likely beyond. And he asked me to come back and tell him exactly how generous you were. How many cans would you like, sir? That damn Peterson. I'll take 8. And you tell that asshole that if he doesn't pony up for 2 more, he's a cheap SOB. And by the way, Mr. Jones next door, do the same thing to him you just did to me. Oh, I was a quick study. I was a real quick study. We had a first place prize in my league, and the second place guys sold 30-some cans, and I sold 600 and some cans, right? never leaving my neighborhood. Okay. Note to self. Hi, Mr. Smith. My name's Greg Piniel. I purchased a home from Mrs. Johnson, and she told me that in the near future you were considering selling. She told me that you were a wonderful person and we should meet so that when you're ready to sell, that you and I would do some business. When can we get together for a cup of coffee or a beer? I've just grown about 22 years at that point when I started doing it that way. Same speech, right? Know what you have. Never set a ceiling on the amount somebody can do. 3, bring extra horsepower. Okay? Successful people know how to sell. Selling is about enthusiasm and belief. Another thing you will find among highly successful people is you will find that these individuals are true to their vision, true to what it is that burns inside of them. You know, Robert Frost, 2 roads divide in a narrow wood. I took the one. I took my vision. I went my way, and it has made all the difference. You know, you see it everywhere in trends and in fashion and in all of the pulls of our media, trying to draw all people in a certain direction. And my question is this: what would you do if no one else followed? What would you do if you were the only one that went in this direction? What is your vision? You know, although my brother and I are as different as night and day, we couldn't be more different. From a child, I remember that when I was playing with trucks and thinking in terms of construction and little dirt piles and backhoes and playing in the dirt, my brother was interested in designing airports. He would play with airplanes, and he had airplane models, and that was his thing. And it was his vision early on, and vision pursued. He's now the CEO of an airline. What is your vision? What do you pursue? What burns deeply inside of you? Bill Cosby, the comedian, he was interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah asks Bill Cosby, what, Mr. Cosby, is the secret to success? Bill Cosby answers. He says, you know, I cannot tell you exactly the secret to success, but I will tell you that the secret to failure is trying to please everybody. True to your own vision. Believing in yourself with enthusiasm, with passion. What would you do if nobody else followed? I want to give you an example of this idea of being true to your vision. But let me back up 1 second and talk briefly about what enables you to have confidence in your vision. Remember, we've talked about confidence. Education. Believing in what you know and knowing it inside of you so well that you can go against the grain with confidence. I wrote a gentleman letters for 15 years. 15 years. Well, we're going to talk about that a little later, but the point is that I finally got an opportunity to buy a building, $4,000 a month gross rents were what was coming in on this building, and the price and terms were as follows. I had the first look at it, the first opportunity. The price and terms were $1,600,000. All cash, no contingencies, 28-day closing. Huge earnest money that you will lose if you don't close in 28 days. Well, you know, everybody in the world that would analyze this deal would say that's crazy, absolutely insane. It was an 11-unit building. How in the world would that work? But I saw a vision. I saw a vision of not what was there, of what could be there. And I saw it clearly. I believed in it in my whole heart. And I bought the building. Immediately went to work and changed rents. From $200 a month, some of the units were $250 a month. And I sent out a wonderful letter that said, "Dear friends, I'm the new owner. If you'd like to stay in your unit, 30 days from now, your new rent is $9.95. Well, of course everybody left. Of course everybody left. But my vision was based on my education that said, I think I can fill this up. It made all the newspapers. You can only imagine the turmoil that came out of that. And yet I still stayed with the vision because I believed in it. And guess what? They all rented. And then I rented what wasn't rented before, the parking spaces. I built storage units in the basement and rented those. And the 8 boat slips that were right in front of the building that were kind of like first come, first served before, now they were rented. And what was $4,000 a month, 60 days after I bought it, was $18,300 of rental income. Education allows you to believe in your vision. And it allows you to stay with your vision even with waves of criticism coming your way about how you're crazy to even be considering this. Stay the course. Believe in what you know. Believe in it with your whole heart. Give it your 100% effort. This is how successful people live their lives. They're not waiting for a crowd or a committee to verify and validate everything they want to do. They stand on their own. They go out and they put their own wits, their own skills, their own abilities, their own life against odds, sometimes believing in their vision. Back to the original question, what's your vision? What is it that you believe in and know? You know, way back when, in a garage in Redmond, Washington, Bill Gates and his best buddy decided that they were on to something and they believed in it. That was his vision. Spent himself in that worthy cause, revolutionary in his thinking. My question, again, is what do you believe in that you would spend yourself in? What is your vision? My world, the things that I've understood, the things that I've pursued my whole life is an in-depth understanding of real estate, acquisition, finance, property management, negotiation. These are the things that I've pursued, the visions that have caught my attention and kept me busy for 30 years. But if you're not true to your vision, you will not last over time. We all have a verse, right? What is your verse? What will your verse be? You know, Whitman, that powerful play goes on, and you can contribute a verse. What is your verse? What is your vision? You need to learn how to compartmentalize. And I'll tell you why. We live in a world that's very stressful. We live in a lot of undone things, right? And people tend to worry a lot. How many people worry? Oh, come on. Who worries? Okay? We all worry. The concept of compartmentalization works this way. Picture a mini storage. Okay? It's got a hallway right down the middle, straight as can be. And here's all these 10 by 10 storage rooms on your left and right. Hallway goes forever. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to label every door, whatever it is in your life that you're thinking about or wanting to do. One door in my life, right, might be this Edmonds House project. There's a door, right? The next one might be my next Reach Returns issue or event. Then, of course, there's a door for every one of my children, my wife, etc., etc. Every issue of my life has a door. Every project I'm working on has a door. Every deal in escrow has a door. Every deal I want to be in escrow has a door. Ranch projects, farm projects, airplane projects, this, that, the other, whatever. Whatever your life's about has a door. Then I want you to, on the front of the door, I want you to make a list of everything that comes to mind that has to do with that particular door. Everything about that particular topic has a list. Okay? Then every morning with your cup of coffee, I want you to walk down the corridor of your mini storage, and I want you to look at the first door, and I want you to read the list. And I want you to ask yourself, is there anything I can do today to further this project? And guess what? If the answer's no, take the list, set it inside the room, shut the door, lock it. You have the key. It's not going anywhere. It's right there. And let it go. Now go to the next door, and the next door, and the next door. If we can release and be where we are, and stay on task with where we are, and not allow the things that we can't do anything about in that day that so infect our efficiency and our energy, we would stay on task. I get asked all the time, how in the hell do you do so much? I get asked that weekly. Have for 20 years. It's not really what I do. It's what I don't do. It's what I'm not thinking about that allows me focus on what it is that I am thinking about. Do you realize we can only be one place at once? Okay? Have you ever thought about that? And I recommend be where you are. Right now, I'm 100% here. My mind isn't anywhere else. I'm here. Be where you are. Don't allow the things that you can't do anything about to infect your moment, your now. Because guess what, guys? Yesterday, as my wonderful poet friend and theologian and philosopher Lee Gallagher says, yesterday, well, that's done. Tomorrow's just a fantasy. This is it, right here. This is what's happening right now. Be here. Be where you are, and don't allow the worry of things. Leave them in the room. Then go back the next day and read a list. Oh, well, actually, I can do something about that today. Then that goes on my today list, and then I get it done. Right? Real simple. Real simple. But I see that successful people have got this one down. They are where they are. They're very time efficient, and they're present when they're there. They're not scattered, and they're not carrying around a bunch of useless emotion called worry. Worry. What a useless concept. Does nothing, and it takes a lot of energy. All right? I want to show a picture here to make a point. I was flying the other day, and I see everything in philosophical terms. That's just how my brain works. And I'm flying up towards the San Juans, and I fly over the tulip fields. And as I'm approaching the tulip fields up in the Skagit, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I would have thought they would be brighter than that and more vibrant. They kind of, But as my angle changed, and as I got a different angle on the same field, oh, what happened? Same field. Same field. Different angle. Sometimes you have to walk around the problem from a lot of different angles to get the answer. And I find that highly effective people don't take no for an answer until they have walked all the way around the situation. And they've looked at it from every perspective. Okay? I was trying to buy 6 lots in a row up at my ranch to be able to put in a public water system. to feed the rest of my properties. I already had 4 or 5, and I needed these to be able to put in a public water system well because of separation and distance and all these things. And I started this project about 7 years ago, knowing what I had to do. I had to buy these lots, which would give me enough room to put in the system, to separate from buildings, to be far enough away from the river and all this. And I had one guy that owned a key lot that just said, it will not happen. I can't explain it to you. I live in Seattle, this lot up in the mountains, this vacant, silly piece of dirt. I need to have a lot in Bering, and I will not sell. Period. Don't call me anymore. And it was the puzzle piece that I had to have to do this. Well, my instinct says, you're telling me no now, but next week you might change your mind. So I kept calling him for like 3 years, weekly. Leroy, Greg, I said no. And then one day I was up there. I'm walking down the road, and I'm kind of bummed because I've got everything else now, all the puzzle pieces. It's this one that is slowing up my progress. And I looked at it from a different angle. And I went, he's told me he needs a lot up in the mountains in this particular development. But what's the difference between this lot down at this end of the street and this one that I need? They're exactly the same dimensions. They're exactly the same tax assessed value. They're exactly the same in any way. I wonder. This is a guy that's told me no for 3 years, and, but I called him. I said, Leroy, don't hang up. Okay, great. I said, Leroy, I know that you want a lot up in Bering. I know that you like this lot. It has meaning to you. I completely get it. But would it matter to you if it was like lot 23 instead of lot 19? What are you saying? I said, well, what if I am able to buy lot 23 or 24 or 25 or somebody else's lot, and then I would simply trade you yours, which is 19, for my new one, whatever one I get. That's fine, just so they're the same size and shape. I about choked on the phone. That's fine? That's fine. 3 years I've been banging my head on the wall. And that was as simple as that. I had it done in a week. I just started calling, okay. Lot 21? No. Lot 22? Sure, I'll sell. Well, that was tough. Good. Here, thanks. Quick claim, one to the other. Jeez, what an idiot. But my plane finally caught the right angle on the situation. The problem could be solved. I just didn't see it. I wasn't at the right angle. I wasn't looking from the right perspective. By the way, successful people do not take no for an answer when they really want something. There is always a way. Boy, I can't stand the words I can't. Drives me nuts. When I hear that, I turn into the Incredible Hulk. I just start morphing. I've actually gotten myself in trouble at times. Someone says, there's no way you can do that. Oh, really? I hope you have a big wallet, because it's going to happen, Notice, too, that this perspective thing applies to a lot of things. Successful people have perspective. I want to tell you a story about a very close friend of mine, a mentor, and I've already talked about him in other contexts, but just this morning I talked to my mentor, A.B. Label. And I asked him, how are things going? He always wants to put the conversation back on me. No, tell me about you, what's going on. And I'm doing my best to say, no, I'd like to know what's going on with you. Come on, there's got to be something new going on with you. How's this? How's that? How's this? Well, he says, well, we did have one interesting thing happen last week. I said, wonderful. Thank God he's going to talk about something of himself. Tell me, What interesting thing happened last week? Oh, well, our house burnt down. I said, what? Your house burnt down? Yes, our house burnt down. Your house burned down. Are you okay? Oh, yes, we were fine. We saw the fires start to build and were able to get out the side door and walk across the street. And our neighbors called the fire department. But by the time they got here, it burnt down. I went, oh, by the way, your house burned down last week? You weren't even going to tell me. Well, it's insignificant. Since when is your house burning down insignificant? Oh, it really is not a big deal. I said, Abby, you're killing me. Where do you live now? Oh, just about a block away, there's the house that Susie's had her eye on the golf course, right on the golf course. She's always wanted to live on the golf course, so we just bought that the next day. What about all your stuff? Oh, well, she's had her eye on some new clothes too, so we just went and bought those. Everything is gone. Yes, but what do we need the same old things for? We have clothes. We bought a new house. Oh, everything's just fine. Now, let's get back to the important thing. How are you? Which is what he said. My head's spinning. Your house burns down. I'm pressing you for what's new in your life and almost have to beat this little tidbit of news out of you. And oh, by the way, it's your house burnt down. And you weren't even going to say because it's not important. Highly successful people have a different perspective on things. What's important? What's not? They value life and the pieces and components of life very differently than most people. They live their perspective. I will guarantee you that on a scale of 1 to 10, that my mentor, Abby's gauge did not move to 1 when his house burnt down. Because his wife is fine, and this is just stuff. And while the fire truck is there, he's walking down the street pulling flyers out of a house a block away, going, well, this one could work well. How do you think about this, Sue? Oh, wonderful. Let's get this one. Oh, pleasure. Pleasure. Let's call him right now while the fire truck's still there. Perspective. Perspective. Remember, things look differently from different angles. How do you look on things? I find that the longer I live, the more intolerant I become of the things that bother normal people. Of the problems, quote, unquote, that people have. And I think to myself, huh? Kind of like Scooby-Doo. Huh? This is a problem? You're kidding me, right? This is as big a problem that is a problem in your life. Those people need to go have a real problem. Because have a bunch of real problems and all of a sudden normal problems aren't problems. So that when your house burns down, you don't even phase your life. You just go find another house. It's not a problem. Perspective. One of the things that I've noticed over time is that there is a breed of people who finish what they start. Now, how do we learn to finish what we start? I have to confess to you, I did not always in my life want to finish what I started. And I'll give you a story around that I was taught, though, that when you start something, you do finish it. And yet, when you're a young kid, you try to break the rules. Well, I was so excited about starting scouting. You know, the Boy Scouts. When I was however old you do when you start Boy Scouts. I went all through Cub Scouts, and then you go into Boy Scouts. And yet the rule was, if you start something, you finish it. well, what is finishing Boy Scouts? You know, when you can't fit into your shirt, when you're out of college. I mean, what is finishing Boy Scouts? Well, that was the ambiguous part, and yet I can tell you that when I got about halfway through the rankings of Boy Scouts, I went to my tenderfoot, my second class, my first class. Well, at about first class, girls were more important, sports were more important, and I kind of got to realize that most of my Boy Scouting friends were kind of nerds and they weren't getting a lot of dates with girls. And so it wasn't a cool thing anymore. And I went to my dad and said, I think I've run my course in scouting. I would like to move on to other things. And my dad completely understood, as he was such an understanding man. And he said, absolutely, completely. I totally get that you're ready to move on to other things. And as soon as you get your Eagle Scout, you can move on to other things, because we finish what we start. Well, now I knew the new definition as far as scouting goes, as far as finishing goes, was Eagle Scout, which at the time when I got my Eagle Scout, I was the youngest Eagle Scout in the state of Washington, because the only way I could quit was to get my Eagle Scout. And yet now, all these years later, I actually seem somewhat proud of the fact that I got my Eagle Scout. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent, as you can tell. Right? The fact of the matter is, I was lucky because I was forced to finish. Little did I know that that was probably the best thing that anybody could have made me do, because now I actually pride myself in finishing what I start. The first quarter of class when I was at the University of Washington, my freshman year at the University of Washington, green as a fir tree, my best friend and I went into our counselor to register to our classes, and there it is, right on the plaque on his desk. His name is Murphy. Last name Murphy. Counselor Murphy. And on the wall behind him, there is a thing in quotes that says, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Murphy's Law. And I went, great, we're in the right place. I should have known right there that there was a problem, but it didn't occur to me. We register for our classes, getting some of our distribution out of the way, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. So my first quarter with my friend Jeff Stevens was Psych 101, Geology 101, commonly known as Rocks for Jocks, and then Zoology 493. All numbers to me sound fine. We're going to go to the zoo. I guess we're going to the zoo. Sounds fun. You could feed the animals, right? I've always liked the zoo. All the animals in the zoo are jumping up. And you remember that? Yeah, I used to love the zoo. Well, the first day of Zoology 493, I walk in, and instead of 500 people in the class, there's 30. And they all have white lab coats. They look smarter than I am, and they have multicolored pens in their pocket in their lab coat. You know, the little push-button pens, the green, the blue, the red, the black, all in a little row. They all had them. And Jeff and I walk in our jeans and tank tops going, whoa, cool. You know, Professor Martin shows up, tells everybody, by the way, when the bell goes off, the door's locked. If you're late, ever, don't bother knocking. When the bell goes off, the door's locked. Period. By the way, if you miss 2 classes, you flunk. I don't care. Come in with your doctor. Have him perform surgery in the back of the room. 2 classes, you're out. If you're late, don't knock. This isn't different. This is a little different than Rocks for Jocks, right? I'm not feeling quite as home here. But we're in class. We're at the university. We've got to stay with it. Professor Martin starts writing on the overhead with his right hand while reeling at about 3 miles an hour with his left hand, drawing human physiology. He has 4 pens in his hand, and somehow he knows how to write with all of them at the same time while drawing synapses, preganglionic synapses to this neuronic system that goes here, that goes there. We're sitting here with our mouths open, with a pencil, looking around, and these people are looking like they're understanding it. And we're looking at each other going, oh crap. It wasn't until the 6th week, by the way, midterm, final. That's it. Midterm, final. Midterm was the biggest bombardier you've ever seen in your life. A monkey, drunk, could have got a better score than Jeff and I got on the midterm. Okay. This class is 5 credits. Pass, no pass. Pass, no pass. Well, immediately we're asking the big questions of life. What do you need to pass? What exactly is passing? Okay. It wasn't until the 6th week, right after the midterm, that we turned to somebody and said, boy, how'd you do on the midterm? And they said they got a 3.8. And we're going, oh, great. How? We're not understanding any of this. And the guy says, well, it's so similar to Zoology 385. Really? You went to the zoo before? This was a graduate level class under the field in the School of Medicine. These are all doctors to be who already have their BA and are now in med school doing human physiology. And we have now wasted 6 weeks drawing things that we don't even know what we're drawing. It was a terrible feeling. And now we're too late to get into any other class. We go to Murphy and he says, deal with it, it's life. Can't you read my wall? Yeah, thanks, pal. And we're sitting here with a crossroads. What do? We have so much time invested in reading and understanding. Well, guess what we decided to do? We needed to get a 2.0 on the final to pass the class. You needed a 1.0 average, which we got a 0 on our midterm. We needed a 1.0 to pass, to get our credits. And we started off with every TA session, meeting the professor afterwards, and reading till midnight, every night, studying. We made up little limericks. We didn't know this stuff. We just had to memorize it. The preganglionic goes to this, little songs, right? So here we are on the eve of the final. The eve of the final. Remember, 7:30 class in the morning, by the way. Eve of the final. We live 7 miles from the University of Washington in a little house. We are studying till 3 in the morning. All I remember is this. I remember waking up. Of course, we're sitting by our fireplace because we have no heat. We can't afford heat. So we make a little fire. We have a card table set up in front of the fireplace. Jeff and I are studying. We're in our jeans, no shoes, no socks, and no shirt, studying. And all I remember is I woke up first from the card table, and I looked at my watch, and it was 7:20 a.m. I yelled out a screech. Jeff screeched up. The first thing he did is look at his watch. He could tell by the look on my face. We grabbed our multicolored pins and ran out the door. Now my driveway was up on a hill, and because my car wouldn't start ever, we park it on the hill. The doors fly open to my Datsun 510, and it's like the start of the luge. We are on both sides of the door in our bare feet. I remember this like it was yesterday. We were pushing this car like the bobsled start, and get it running down the driveway and jump in as the car's moving, slam the door, throw it into second gear, pop the clutch, and go. It was a Datsun 510, 1968, right? We went up the hill, turned left on a main 4-lane arterial going 60 miles an hour, and then hit speeds of 95 miles an hour and ran every red light from 168th Northeast all the way down to 45th Northeast, which was where the University of Washington was, going 95 miles an hour, honking the horn the entire way. Swerving, we almost got killed 5 times. Well now, and Jeff's counting down the minutes like 727, 728. We come screaming into the entryway of the University of Washington. The guard's flagging us. We go right through the thing. We go right into Red Square. We drive right down the stairs, right across the flats, right down the stairs, right across the flat, right down the stairs. Students are scattering everywhere. Right into Red Square. Pull up in front of Smith Hall. Jump out of the luge. Run upstairs in our bare feet and no shirts. And we are sprinting down the hallway as the bell is going off with our multicolored pins in hand. And there's Martin standing by the door. As he's pulling the door shut, I'm pushing it open. Sweaty, dripping, stinking, have not brushed our teeth, multicolored pins in hand, ready to take our final exam. With our car not running, puking, overheating, boiling, out in the lawn, out in front of the building. We calmed ourselves, as you would, and we took our test. Singing little songs in the back of the room with very smart people looking back at us, shaking their heads like, what are you doing? The preganglion. And we both got a 2.2 on that test, and remember absolutely nothing, but we passed. I'm not so sure that I would advise that, but the principle of don't quit. We can do so much more than we think we can do. We are capable of so much more. But most of the time, we avoid situations that are difficult. We go around them. Successful people find a way to go right through and persevere against all odds and stay with it and finish it. Over the years, I have heard every excuse, especially in the real estate world, which is what I know and what I teach. I've heard every excuse of why people can't do it. I don't have enough time. I don't have any time, as a matter of fact. I don't have enough money. It's so easy for you, Greg, because you know what you're doing. I wouldn't have a clue. I'm not educated in that. I want to do this, but I just can't. I would like to say that I was exempt from all of that, and yet I need to tell you a story. I have always wanted to fly an airplane. It's been on my list since I was in high school of something that I really wanted to do. And for many, many years, I thought about doing it, but I would tell myself, nobody told me, I told myself that I didn't have the money and I really don't have the time. It's going to take a huge commitment of time and energy and effort, and I really don't have either. And so, here I am, wanting to do this at 18, and then fast forward to when I'm 40, and I still haven't done it. Well, my incredible wife, we were down in Pebble Beach for our anniversary and my birthday. And it was my 41st birthday. And she packs down with her on the airplane a present for me. And I remember helping her load this into the plane because it was a big, heavy present. I think, wow, this is heavy. And, you get very curious around things. And I had no idea what this was. Well, down in Pebble Beach, I opened this incredible present. And what it was all my ground school books to learn to fly. And she said, oh, by the way, we're home on Wednesday. Your first class is Thursday. And it's all paid for. That's your birthday present. And I rolled my eyes, and again, what did I say to myself? There's no way I have time. And even though you've just given me my ground school, I know enough about flying to know that that's just like a drop in the bucket, and where am I going to find the money to allocate to this? But the fact of the matter is that now it was in motion. Now, here's the books, and by the way, you're in class tomorrow night, and start. What I need to tell you is that at the end of my first year of pursuing aviation, starting with that first class that night, I got my private pilot's license, I got my instrument rating, I got my multi-engine rating, I got my multi-engine instrument rating, and I got my float rating to be able to fly seaplanes. I purchased my own new airplane, and I purchased a beautiful condominium aircraft hangar in the first year. Read $500,000 for the plane and the hangar, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of flying and studying my first year. But I was the guy that didn't have time and didn't have the money. There's something really disturbing around that when I look at myself, because I told myself for years I couldn't do it because of those two things. And yet, when it was put in motion, guess what? I found both of those things. I think I found both of those things because it was a link. Aviation to me became passionate day one. I loved it. And so you tend to do and find out how to do what you love. You remember point one? What do you want? What do you love? And if you love it, if you're passionate about it, you will find a way and you won't make excuses. Successful people do not make excuses. They just get it done. You've heard it say, find the busiest person you know. The busiest person you know, and if you want to get something done, give it to them to do. They just get things done. Period. End of story. How many people were raised that you put others first? Okay. I could have just said, how many in this room are Catholics? No, I'm saying. Okay. So this is going to be a little unpopular, but I'm going to have you hang in there with me. I believe that unless you put yourself first, nothing's going to work right in your life. Period. I told my wife that she would never be first. She totally agreed and said, well, you're really never going to be first now. No. But it's true. It's true. How can we be effective to give to any situation or anybody unless we are first filled and feeling good about our own life? I actually will be a little harsh and say that we become a burden to others when we start leaning on them, needing them for things. Whereas if we would take care of our own life, understand who we are, what fills us, the kind of passions we have, the kind of things that recharge us, and if we understood those things and were consistent with those things, that we would be a happier human being. Consequently, we would be a better husband, a better father, a better business person. I want to develop a sticker, and it's one of those round things with the slash on it, and it has a person leaning. Say no to leaners. Stand up straight. Take care of your own life. Remember, you're responsible for your own life, no one else. And this is a huge, huge thing, and it starts with you taking care of you. So here's a suggestion. I have a list that I carry with me everywhere. It simply says, do more of this. And every item on the list can be done in a half an hour or less. And they're recharge activities to me. One of the favorite things that I love doing when I have a half an hour is I go to a golf course, I go to a long par 4 with woods on the right, and I go out there at about 225 yards and go in the woods on the right, and it's the alpha, the omega, the beginning, the end. What was lost is now found. I just hope it's a Pro V1 Titleist. Okay? And I go look for lost golf balls. That's great. It's what I do. I don't need more golf balls, for God's sakes. It's just neat and clean and white and fluffy, and it's understandable to me. And I go out there and it's like, I get this little rush. I've only found about 10 billion golf balls in my life, but still I go, oh, there's one. There's one. And I dive in and I look for logo and what kind, and I clean it off, and it's a beauty. And if you're a true golfer, you immediately put it in your mouth and swirl it around to clean it, right? That's what we do, spit a little bit, no big deal. It's just mud. What recharges you? What recharges you? What is it that you can do in a short period of time that makes you go, okay, I feel human again. I feel better now. You'll be more effective. You'll be more on task. You'll be a better mate. Successful people put themselves first. Sounds weird, but it's true. There's no strata division in your world. None. Zero. If you were to come to a ranch bash party, and I hope you all do, first weekend after Labor Day, always Saturday at the ranch, you will find that there's sheetrockers and ditch diggers and guys that clean out barn stalls, and they're CEOs of banks and companies. And they're all my friends. Because we're all people, right? We're all the same. There's no difference. So what if somebody makes a little more money than another guy? So what if one guy went to Harvard, one of my friends is number one graduating class in Harvard, and the other guy walked out of school at 8th grade? So what? We're all people, aren't we? When we start thinking that we're only should and able to spend time with a certain, guess what? We've missed the point. There's life in all people. Everybody. And I would like to think that I can go on my job site and Jesse, who today was on the end of a pump truck hose, I can hang on to that hose for all our life as this thing is throwing out concrete with Jesse and just feel like we're together. And then I clean up and I meet someone that's hugely successful at 5 o'clock. I'm the same guy in either setting. Don't limit your world. You'll be shocked how much brighter and more full your world will be if everybody becomes part of your world. Okay? In that same note, highly successful people, I know it sounds kind of to task, it's a Pinioism. You either bend them over or you stand them up. I recommend standing people up. The highly successful people that I know, somehow, some way, I don't know how it happens, but you get about an inch taller just when you get close to them. You kind of fill out. You're more able because they make you feel that way. We have enough negative influences in the world beating us all up. Stand someone up. It's okay to tell them that they're bigger than they may even be. Guess what? They'll rise to the occasion. Stand them up. Highly successful people bring in everybody. And just like tide, they raise all ships.
This is the end of Disc 2. Deliberate Success with Greg Pinio continues on Disc 3.